Dun, 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 dun. Your noise cancellation is blocking out the flute. Dun, dun, dun. Welcome to Dungeon Master Level 1, the podcast about a first-time Dungeon Master and his new friends, his best friends. Not new, best friends.
It's like, and his what? What was that part you're gonna
his,
say?
his best friends who are primarily first-time players. And I am your Dungeon Master, Merritt, and with me is my unwilling assistant DM, Ted, and we're here on a off week. The adult
Folks.
the adult D&D game once again has fallen to its greatest nemesis of scheduling conflicts.
That's right. We did not have a game this week, so we are not going to talk about that. Instead, we're just going to talk about whatever we want, folks.
Some stuff. I'm going to start off by saying, I was ready for the game this week, but I was actually relieved that there were some conflicts because it is going to let me refine the encounter I had planned. I actually came up with a great idea for the encounter. I was really struggling for how to balance all the elements in it that I wanted to have and make it a good encounter. And then I had a great idea Wednesday night, the night after we were supposed to have it.
Wow.
So it was a huge relief. And
Incredible.
I also took advantage of this off week in downtime, and I went to my local library, which I believe is probably one of our country's most underused, amazing resources.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started on the library.
I picked up the Dungeon Master's Guide from the library and have been.
Hell yeah, dude!
I have been looking through it, trying to, helping figure things out. And it's been hugely helpful, and I'm very excited that I did so.
Not to be a troll, but I love how you picked that up about a good way into our.
Oh yeah! Oh, absolutely, 100%. Well, I was.
You know what? I've been having this for about 12 weeks so far. Why don't I?
Maybe I should
pick up this Dungeon Master's Guide.
Pick up that book that it's supposed to that teaches you how to do this. Well, I had. We had stayed pretty vanilla in how we were playing.
Right.
And
also, I immediately felt bad for saying that because there's so many resources on the internet. So I'm sorry.
That's the other thing.
Just come to attack you.
That's the other. Yeah, there's a lot of resources on the internet. Back in November, D&D Beyond does a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. And basically all of their materials, their books, are half price. So pro tip for anyone who's looking to grab some of those things, if you can, wait till November because it's a great sale. So I had enough to get myself, this was my wife's Christmas gift to me for myself, is my nerd books. And so I picked up the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, and
Perfect.
Xanathar's Guide for Everything, based on some information I read online and people's discussions saying these are the 3 core books that you really need if you want to run a game. The Dungeon Master's Guide is helpful. A lot of it is about world building, which I felt like I pretty much already had down with this idea.
Right.
I felt that the world felt solid enough. I felt like I had a good job. I've done a lot of creative writing over my life, and so I felt like I had good characters and good motivations for them, and I didn't really need instructions for that. Where I have found myself recently is as our encounters have gotten, specifically our combat encounters have gotten more complex, I find myself concerned that I don't want to start an encounter that is just way too difficult or way too easy. I want it nice and balanced. I want it fair. But I don't want to go into one, have a total party kill in 2 rounds, and then be like, okay, I'm going to rework it and then we'll replay it. Because that just sucks a ton of fun out of it. So I went to get the Dungeon Master's Guide primarily to do a little more research on making monsters and making combat encounters and how to balance them. And it's a pretty interesting little formula that it basically is like you have to calculate your player's total hit points, the total damage output, their armor, factoring in their armor class, and then weigh that against the monster's total hit points, damage output, armor class, etc. So I'm still working through that for our session for Tuesday. Little hint, I think you saw it coming, but that this Tuesday was going to be this next session was going to have some combat in it.
Yep. I think we are all kind of like on the edge of our seat for what's going to happen. And by all of us, I mean you and me and half of the people who are actively playing it. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I actually, it's funny you said that, because I actually had some thoughts about what I want to do in the next campaign in the next round that I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, so do you mean the next session or like the next
session?
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
No, I don't have any ideas for like the next campaign.
Yeah.
Please. That's like years down the line.
Well, I mean, not the next campaign, but like looking forwards. We'll just say looking forwards. When we have sort of concluded this, I had the idea of, I thought it would be kind of cool to take the characters you guys are playing. And so we've done a true homebrew campaign where I wrote the plot, I wrote the NPCs, I incorporated your personal opponents, nemesis into it, things like that. I thought it would be kind of neat if we took your characters and put them in a scripted by the book campaign, and we can sort of do a little comparison on that. So because that's part of what this podcast is, part of what the game is, to be new to everybody, sort of see, this was the homebrew, this is a compare
and contrast, kind of like starting a new playthrough when you're thinking about a new perspective that you want to get.
100%. That it sort of is just a different perspective. Yeah, exactly. So I thought that might be kind of a neat thing. And then, we could do it, and then we could go back to the continuation of this homebrew campaign, and continuing the personalized character arcs. That I kind of thought that would be kind of neat.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah.
We could give that a shot. I also want to point out that we did mention something last week that I thought was rather telling, is that I think somebody mentioned moving to every other week, which I thought was like, okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit. I definitely think we might do that over the summer. I think that's how it came up in conversation, that obviously people are going to be busy over the summer. I'm doing some travel soon. Everyone else is going to start doing more travel, outdoors, family stuff. That's just the nature of life in the summer. So I think, probably what we'll do for the summer is, I have a little turtle that my daughter made, and it's green, so the screen can't see it, but you can see it.
Look at this. I have a little turtle that my mom gave me. Look at that. That's crazy. Cool. We have like two little turtles on our little workstations. That's incredible. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's this little turtle with sparkles that my daughter made in her pre-K, and one of its eyeballs just fell off.
Oh, shit. That's so just poor craftsmanship.
Come on, get it together, 4-year-old. So I'm going to have to glue its eyeball back on. Anyways, so for the summer, we're probably going to have to switch to a every other week, whenever we can type schedule, which makes perfect sense. What I want to... and I don't want to put expectations on other people. Everyone leads busy lives. I do want to have at least every other week, if not every week, when we enter the, crummy cold fall winter time again, like late October, November, get back into, because this has been such a great experience for me, being able to see my best friends and my brother every week, and us having a podcast every week has just been really, really fun, and kind of a mental health lifesaver as we continue to struggle through the world of COVID.
What's happening? Oh, COVID, right, of course.
And my favorite. Oh, you thought something personal? No. Yeah, I just mean, everything, the world.
Personally, pick from the list. International war.
Yeah.
Or global pandemic that
right?
is still happening, folks.
Massive income inequality.
Oof, God.
You know?
Hey, speaking of income inequality, here's a fun thing that happened the other day. I opened my front door and I see that there is a letter wedged into our like little grate. So in most apartments in Los Angeles, there's the front door, and then they have these like metal locked doors, which are handy if you want to get some airflow through your house when it gets really hot. You can like lock. You can have like a front door that locks and is secure, but like lets air flow through, which is cool. So there's a letter stuffed in there, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And I open it up, and it is a letter from a realtor that is saying that, "Hey, guess what? Your landlord is selling your building, and we want to show the property to a potential buyer, and we need to see your unit. So make sure that you like make it presentable and like blah 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 and all this shit." And I straight up was just like, I looked at it, and there was like a phone number written on there. I tried to call this person. They did not answer. Their phone did not have
very
a voicemail.
Professional.
Classic. So guess what I did? I went online and found them on Google and found their realtor company, and then sent them an email and said, "Look, dog, here's the deal. You can come by, but we both work from home. My partner and I, we work from home. That's just it. We're not going to be really available. So if you want to come and look at the apartment, don't fuck with us."
Yeah.
Because
I would
actively working.
I'd check your lease, because I am willing to bet you do not have to permit them entry into your apartment.
Well, here's the thing: is that our lease expired, so we've just been month to month. So like, that's pretty much how it goes in Los Angeles these days. Is that you move into a place and you just stay month to month forever. There was like 2 years ago when they raised our rent, but we live in a rent stabilized building as well. There's a lot of tenants' rights things going on.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, who knows what's going to happen with all of this? It's all very preliminary, but long story short, I did some like Google sleuthing on this realtor, and it was just like, "Oh, you're just the worst type of person. You're just the scum of the earth." He worked first of all, he worked for his dad's real estate development company.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
And then also was really proud of the fact that he bought up a bunch of apartment buildings and turned them into condos.
Oh,
that's
excellent.
Great.
Good.
That's awesome, dude. I love that so much. Oh, that's so cool. Great. So he made everything look the same. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, forced families out of their homes so he could upsell it to a bunch of yuppies.
Or Russian oligarchs, folks.
Russian oligarchs who don't even live there. Right, exactly. Bringing us back to anyways.
The awful world that we find ourselves in. Dude, I told you this was going to happen.
I know you did. But I've got something to get us back on point.
Okay, great.
So first of all, before we go on to this, let's just talk a moment and give her a shout out and appreciation for public libraries. How cool are they? Like,
yes. Shout out public library. Shout out to a real one. Yeah. I listened to I'm interjecting your
no, go for it. It's fine.
I listened to a woman on a podcast, and I forget her name, and that's bad. But she's running for president of the American Library Association.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. And she made this really interesting point that the public library is the last public space where you can go and like use the bathroom. You can go and like check out a book for free, and there's no money that you have to pay.
Yep.
And it's like such a thing that's like, oh, this is what it's like to live in a society that's
have
not
a functioning
just like
society and government. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a service that is provided. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting because I never thought of that. But I do go to the library pretty regularly. I try to check out books.
We go for the kids to check out books and go to the story time, go let them play with the toys they have there. It's just a change of location. And so what made me think of it really was on Tuesday, we went to a library that the kids used to go to a story time at when they were really little, like 2 and 3 and 4 years old. And they're a little bit older now. And so we went to the story time there. We hadn't been in years because of COVID. And we were like, oh, let's see if their favorite librarian, Miss Laura, is there. And unfortunately, she wasn't. I think she actually has been promoted and is like head of the children's department. And so had like real things to do. which is why we didn't get to see her. But I was also like, oh, I want to check out a book because I have just finished watching The Expanse. If you have not seen that,
I want to read those books.
Here's what I would say. The Amazon series, it started on Sci-Fi. The last couple of seasons were done by Amazon. They are amazing. It's so good. It's like Game of Thrones meets Battlestar Galactica.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's like Game of Thrones in space.
Yeah. With minor spoiler, fewer main characters dying. You can feel safer growing attached to people.
Oh, that's too bad because that's something that I loved about Game of Thrones.
Which
I loved that it just cleaved all of your favorite
immediately,
characters.
Yeah, just like, oh, you like this one?
Much.
Dead.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just like they made real mistakes and it cost them their lives, and that's how real life works, folks. Buckle up. This is Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But so I watched The Expanse, and then I was like, oh, they're not making any more right now. Like the series is canceled. Maybe there'll be something. I heard there's more books, so I went online and I checked out and saw that the series actually really closely follows the books, that they're very faithful, which is awesome to do. And thank you to the producers and directors of the series for doing that.
Whoa. How many books are there in the Expanse?
9 books. And so the series covers the first
Are the books
6.
done? Did they finished?
I believe they are done, but also like
the last one came out last year.
It came out last year, so he might be doing more.
Well, I think that the Expanse arc may be done, but given how much, given how popular
they could do more.
I'll check this out.
Yeah, but so I was like, so I checked online and saw that the books or the series very closely followed the books, and so I was like, you know what, I don't want to read the plot of the series I just watched, but I picked up book 7. Felt like I didn't miss a thing. I started that book.
Yeah.
It was like, yep, I'm totally up to speed. I feel comfortable. This is great. Let's do it. And then I finished it in 2 days. It was like, well, I had the kids played with each other during school break, and I did not play any video games. I did not watch any TV. And last night, I think I stayed up till 1:30 because I was so close to the end. I was like, I have to finish this book. Like, I cannot put this down and go to sleep. I won't be able to sleep. And then I went to a different library today because I realized, hey, they might have the Dungeon Master's Guide that I can go and look at and actually learn, figure out what I want. And so I got the next book in the Expanse series, and I got the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I am better off for it. So thank you to public libraries and librarians. You are unsung heroes. But here's what I wanted to talk about. Bring it back to Dungeons and Dragons. There are some really cool, aside from a ton of information, a ton of really cool magic items, a couple of enemies, a couple of subclasses for characters to play. So it's in the Dungeon Master's Guide is where the Oathbreaker Paladin comes from, as well as the Death Druid that focuses on like death and how that plays into nature and stuff like that.
Right.
It also has a lot of alternative rule mechanics in the back, and I want to go over some of them because I think some are very interesting.
Okay.
So the first one is plot points. Plot points allow players to change the course of the campaign, introduce plot complications, alter the world, and even assume the role of the DM. If your first reaction to reading this optional rule is to worry that your players might abuse it, it's probably not for you. I could 100%. I'm not going to let you guys do that.
Do not do that rule. I'm telling you right now, as a friend, do not do that rule. If you do that rule, Sam or myself will ruin everything.
100%. As soon as I read that, I was like, Sam and Ted would ruin everything if I let them do this. Stephen Wright, I think, would be cool. Sam and Ted would destroy the universe with this.
It's so funny how we just like lean into each other's like lust for chaos.
Yeah,
it's just the best.
But there's 3 different ones they outline. The one is What a Twist. let me see.
Oh my God, is that like the Robot Chicken sketch?
It kind of sounds like, yeah, kind of.
That's one of my. I still quote that sketch many years later, and it's such a dumb 30-second sketch.
A player who spends a plot point gets to add some element to the setting or situation that the group, including you, must accept as a rule. For example, a player can spend a plot point and state that his or her character has found a secret door, an NPC appears, or a monster turns out to be a long-lost ally polymorphed into a horrid beast. So, like, you can just you could put in random twists if you want. Option 2 is the plot thickens. When a player spends a plot point, the player to his or her right must add a complication to the scene. For example, if the player who spends the point decides that her character has found a secret door, the player to the right might state that that opening the door triggers a magical trap that teleports the party to another part of the dungeon, which is kind of cool.
Wow. That's cool.
Option 3 is called The Gods Must Be Crazy. And to summarize this, you spend a plot point and you become the DM for that game, for that session.
That's insane.
Isn't that insane? I mean,
I love that though.
I love it. I could see if you've been playing a game for years and years and years with the same group of people, that this would be a really fun thing to do to keep it fresh and crazy. And just like it almost be like you're in a world where just like rules don't apply. Like one of the, the Phantom Toll Booth or something like that, where everything's just made up and everything's crazy. It'd be something like that. Here are some interesting other alternative rules that I think that we might actually want to talk about and implement, because I think some of them are really cool and would actually be good, and add a little bit of realism to the game. The first category is regarding initiative, and instead of just rolling plus your modifier, the first one is the side initiative, where you and your allies roll initiative and take the average, and then the DM rolls initiative for all of the monsters, and whichever one's higher, that entire group gets to go first. So it sort of like breaks it. Yeah, isn't that weird? It could go very, very well or very, very poorly for the players.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool variant, and it also makes DMing easier, because it's just like, okay, players I'll go, monsters I'll go. But I don't think that's right for us. The second one that I find more interesting and would consider implementing maybe in like the next phase of our campaign at some point is a speed factor. And so what this is you roll initiative, but then there are modifiers based on what you're going to do. So spell casting, depending on how high level spell is, the bigger delay you have to casting it. So if you want to, you roll your initiative, if you want to cast a first level spell, that's a -1.
That's cool.
If you want to cast a second, it's a -2. If you want to do a third, it's a -3. Then for melee, if it's a heavy weapon, that's a -2. If it's a light or a finesse weapon, it's a +2. You get a little bit earlier because you're using something lighter and easier to move. So those are part of it. And then your character's size adds a modifier, that if you are tiny, you get a +5. If you're small, you get a +2. Medium, you're 0. Large, you're a -2. Huge, you're a -5. Gargantuan, it's a -8. So I kind of really like that, because I think it adds a lot of realism to how things would actually go. And I think I would actually adjust that so that your first round, this would make it more complicated, because a major complication of this is that your initiative changes from round to round based on what you're going to do. That adds a lot of work and would slow combat down. But it also is like really cool. I think it would be that in the first round, it's just your roll. And then what you did in that turn affects your initiative order in the next round. So
wow.
So that way you could cast like the third level spell quickly, because it's like your first action, you're fresh, you're ready to hit the ground running. But then the energy from doing that delays you on your next turn. And it wouldn't even necessarily lower you in the order, depending on how the roll went, but it could be. So I just think that's an interesting
you know what I think my favorite thing about any of these variants is the idea of it's going to take you a while to cast this spell.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite like series of books. I've read a lot of fantasy books, and I read the Magicians series, which I enjoyed, but I'm not going to say it's like my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing the thing I really, really liked about the book is that magic in that universe is dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that in Game of Thrones too. But in this instance, it's like you go to magic school, but they're just like, okay, look, you can try to do this spell, but if you fuck it up, it's going to ruin your life. And it's going to ruin the life of everyone you cared about.
Do you mean the Kingskiller Chronicles? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, because it's the same in
I'm talking about the Magicians. But,
I don't think I've ever read that. I don't think I've ever read the Magicians. I'll have to try that.
The Magicians is like Harry Potter / Narnia, but an adult version, and it's there's like the idea of like magic and the Magicians is like theoretical physics, and it's like if you get a number or something wrong, the spell either A, won't work, best case scenario, or B, will do something terrible.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Kingskiller Chronicles is. It's very much magic is a very much an academic study. You spend
I've read those books.
Oh, okay.
Too.
Yeah, then you know what I'm talking about.
The third one hasn't come out yet.
No, and I'm so pissed about it. Here's a tangent.
Don't even get me started. Okay, tangent time. Here we go. Hold on. Let me turn the noise cancellation off because I got to do the theme song for. This is actually fascinating. This is a synergy tangent.
This is a synergy tangent.
The same tangent at the same time. Ooh, it's a synergy tangent. Oh, that was bad. Hold on. Damn, hold on. The thing's not on the right. Here we go.
It keeps getting longer. Nice. You're getting decent at the flute.
That's the best part. Is I'm getting gradually better each time I pick it up.
Gag. It's like I'm gonna get a flute, and then you're actually like really working on it. It's amazing. Yeah. So
the funniest part is I'm not working on it. I just play it once a week whenever we have D&D, and then again on the podcast.
Still huge improvement. Rolling uphill. So I started Game of Thrones when I was in the 8th grade. First of all, hugely inappropriate book for an 8th grader.
Yes. Oh, what's that? And within the first 100 pages, brother and sister are fucking.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That my parent, I liked. Yeah, right. I liked fantasy books. My dad got me it at he found it like a discount bin, a paperback of the first book, gave it to me, and I read it, loved it because it's an amazing book. I actually have a first edition copy of the rest. So I have a first edition of what is it? The Storm of Swords and yep, first edition of the American printing. Yep.
And it's of Dragons.
Yep.
Cool.
The later ones are like less impressive because like a ton of people got them, but the Storm of Swords and Clash of Kings are really cool first 100%. Editions to have.
Absolutely.
But anyways, so what was this? Oh, so I started that in the 8th grade. Started in the 8th grade.
1996. That was when the first book came out. 1996.
Yeah. I'm now 38 years old, and he's not done with the series. 2 of those books have taken a decade each to write.
Mm-hmm.
After that had happened to me, I swore I am never starting a book series that the author is not done with. I cannot deal with this like success on the first couple of books, and then like their motivation just vanishes because like they have food on the table and, you know, don't need to finish it to survive. And so now with Patrick Rothfuss, it's going on 8-10 years for the third book in that trilogy to come out. You know,
yeah. So, then that's supposed to be the last one, right?
Yeah, supposed to. And he did release a sort of side story book in there, which is cool, but like I'm not interested, and I want you to finish the books, the main series.
Yeah, but anyways, because I read the first 2 of those a while ago, and I here's the thing about the my experience reading the first book is that I thought that when the first book opens of Kingkiller Chronicle, they're like, hey, we're setting out, it's going to be 3 days of this inn. And I'm like, cool. This first book is going to be the 3 days at the inn, and then it's going to explode out, and we're going to really like see what's going on. And I start getting about a quarter of the way through the book, and I'm like, they haven't even had lunch yet. I don't
think we're leaving this in.
We're going to leave this in. We get about 3/4 of the way through the book, and I'm like, we're not leaving the inn. This is only the first day. The second book is going to be the second day. And then the not released third book is going to be the third day. Yeah. And I got so mad in that moment because I was like, this is bullshit. I hate this. Dang it. And there's just like so many like threads that I was like, I want to know what the answer to this is. And the other thing is that I was so burned after watching Lost because there are so many threads in Lost that I was like, oh, what's the payoff going to be for this? And that entire last season of Lost, I would watch and just be like, fine. I'd be like, here's the answer. And I'd be like, great, fine, whatever.
I'm so glad I never got into Lost. I'm so glad I never got into Lost.
It's fun. It was a fun ride. And I will say that season 4 or 5 of Lost, season 5, I think it was season 5 of Lost was excellent. Yeah. It was great TV. Okay. Lots of fun.
Good.
Anyway.
Yeah. So authors, please finish your books. Don't leave the public hanging for decades while we flap in agony in the wind.
You know what's funny about Game of Thrones is that I was recommended the book by somebody I worked with who at a Potbelly sandwich shop. I worked for folks. For those of you listening at home, there is a chain of toasted sandwiches that is an elevated Quiznos called Potbelly, and you better believe I worked for a Potbelly for a year and a half in Chicago, Illinois, folks.
Didn't I visit you?
Didn't you what?
I visited you at a Potbelly once, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
Or you just showed. I definitely visited you when you were in Chicago.
They gave me keys to the store and the combination to the safe, and guess how much they paid me an hour, folks? $10. $10 an hour, and I had full access to everything in the store. That was more than my yearly salary in that safe. That's not true. But anyway, this guy I worked with who was very ashamed for working at Potbelly, and it was just like, dude, just get over it. Just better yourself and try to find
making a sandwich is better than a lot of what other people do, you know.
Yeah. To be fair though, that job sucked, and I was like, there are many other opportunities. If you're fortunate, you can try to get one, but who knows. Anyway, he was like, oh, whenever I meet somebody who I'm like, oh, this person's like someone who reads, I always like throw Game of Thrones at him, and I'm like, what do you think? And I picked up that book, and I was hooked from the get-go. Yeah. Like right out the gate, I was just like, the first chapter with the whites and like
it was huge.
Zombies in the north, and then Jon Snow, and he's like, oh, we all get these dogs, and there's this like omen in the woods, and it's like, whoa, this is nuts.
Particularly the first 4 books are masterworks. They're beautifully crafted. Incredibly well written. I could do with a little less like description of the food in them, but like some people like that, so fine. But for like the plot and characters, it's genius, and like the settings are fantastic. I think the later ones ramble and lose their way a little bit, and my concern now is that because the last season of Game of Thrones on TV was such a disaster, which I honestly didn't mind it that much. I didn't think it wasn't great, but I didn't think
HBO
it was terrible.
Given those two bozos as many more seasons as they wanted.
Yeah.
And just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really shitty. And what's funny is that the backlash was so severe that they actually lost a lot of the other opportunities that they were going to go off and do. Because the last season of that was such a shit show and so bad.
They went too far off of what his plot was going to be. They stopped making, because they were no longer following exactly what George R. R. Martin had written, the characters stopped making logical decisions.
And the other thing about it is that the scale of that show is so huge. You know, if something's happening in the north and somebody's in like Dorne or like King's Landing, it's going to take them 6 months to get to the wall. You know what I mean? There's not going to be any last minute saves.
And all of a sudden, travel times no longer mattered, and people thinking stopped happening. And like, I didn't object to like Daenerys going crazy and burning the city. I understood that, but like their explanation of like, oh yeah, she kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet. It's like, you mean she forgot about like the main force of her enemies? Like, that's like the biggest force she had to worry about out there. Like, no, she didn't. That's dumb. And you're bad writers for coming up with that. They just suck.
Like so dumb.
I thought it would have been
so bad.
I thought it would have been really cool if Jaime had killed Cersei and he prevented the burning of King's Landing again. Like, because that's why he was the king killer. Like, I would have thought when he left the north and was going to King's Landing, I thought he was.
Let me just pause you real quick, folks. If you haven't read Game of Thrones or watched the show, there are some massive spoilers in this episode.
All right. Well, I didn't say what happened. Well, a little bit, but I said what I thought should have happened.
Actively like talking about a bunch of shit that happened. I love that.
All right. Here's time for a subtangent.
Okay.
I have a rule for spoiler safety. You have 1 week to watch a show.
Yes.
1 month to see a movie.
Yes.
1 year to read a book. If you can't get that done in that time frame, you don't get to complain about having something spoiled.
Agreed. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because let me tell you a story about just that. When the first Game of Thrones season was coming out, they did this massive guerrilla marketing campaign in New York where they would have like Tom Colicchio, who's like a celebrity chef from Top Chef and shit. He would like recreate food from the books, and they would have free food trucks set up that you could go and wait in line at and go get like a lemon pie, or like whatever else like was described in the books. It was really cool. I was like, this is awesome, and the food was awesome. It was really good.
Yeah.
And I just finished rereading Feast for Crows, because that's right, folks. I read the first 5 books twice, and I've just given up at this point. I'm like, I follow the subreddits, and people are like, I've watched every Alt Shift X video about Game of Thrones. I've watched so much stuff about it that at this point I'm also 38, and I'm like, I just cannot.
I don't have the time.
My heart has broken so much waiting for this book, and I'm just not. My hope is that he releases. This is not going to happen, but my hope is that George R. R. Martin will release Winds of Winter, and then the next year we'll release the last book, and that would
be amazing. That would be so cool
if
he got them both done.
It's taking so long, because he's writing them concurrently, and he's gonna like release them both, and that's gonna be I don't think that's gonna happen.
I laughed because I reread the first books each time the next book came out. So I've read Game of Thrones like 5 times, and A Clash of Kings like 4 times, and the next one 3 times. Like, I've read and then I stopped doing that for like the last 2. I just didn't have the time to go through them again.
Well, that's the thing, is if Winds of Winter gets announced, I feel like I need to go back and reread them.
Yeah, because I definitely do now, because I haven't read them in forever. Yeah,
I haven't read them in forever. So I'm waiting in line to get this lemon pie, and I'm with my friend Annalie. Shout out Annalie. They're not listening to the podcast, but maybe. And we were really excited. We were both like really into the books, and I was talking about how at the end of Feast for Crows, shit is going down. You know, like the Iron Fleet has sailed into like Hightower, or like where the Maesters live and stuff, and there's like a bunch of like characters that kind of get introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sam showing up to Old Town, I was like, I am so fucking hyped for this.
Yeah.
Because I cannot wait to watch Sam navigate this entirely new, unfamiliar place with 1,000 daggers behind every wall, all like looking to like kill each other because the Maesters are their own thing that we haven't even seen.
No idea of their social structure, their power structure.
I know, like who knows? Like they're like the Catholic Church of this universe, and it's like who knows what kind of dark shit's going on behind those closed doors. And I was just saying that to my friend, and this dude in front turns around. He's just like, I actually haven't read that book yet, so could you like just like not like talk about it? And I was just like, and my friend was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I just want to be like, motherfucker, that book came out in 2005.
Yeah, so that was like 4 or 5 years.
Sorry that you just heard about this new TV show coming out and you want to read a book and oh boy, boo-hoo, I'm like talking about one small thing that you probably won't even remember. You flipping Chad.
No, if you care, okay, I'll give some leeway for that because like he may not have known about it. He may have just gotten into the books. It does take time to read through a book. But other than that, like if I were to have something spoiled from the Expanse book I'm reading right now, I would not be that upset about it because that book has been out for a couple of years. You have a week to watch a TV show, a month to see a movie, or a year to read a book. For example, I have not seen No Way Home yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
oh, dude, it's great. You gotta watch that movie. It's so good.
Like, well, we're a month past release. I can't get that upset if it gets spoiled for me. Ted, I will not forgive you if you spoil something for me now, because we are in a one-on-one conversation and you have to.
Well, no, it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking like, speaking of spoilers, and I was like, a great example of that would be like if somebody had talked about the new Spider-Man movie, I would have been upset.
Yeah. See, my point is like if I were to overhear something in public or see something on the internet, it's like, well, you know what? I did not make it a priority to get myself to the theater to see it by this point. I've seen a couple of things that are like pseudo spoilers, but I quickly scrolled away or closed the window or stopped the video. So I didn't really have much of the story spoiled. But if I were to, it's like, well, you know, it's really on me. I could have made it to the movie theater if I really wanted to, but I didn't want to sit in a movie theater with a mask. The timing didn't really work with, you know, the kids and their schedules. But if I had told my wife, listen, I need to go see this movie so I don't have anything spoiled, I'm going to go this Saturday night, I could have made it happen. So, you know, it was just balancing priorities, but I cannot. If someone intentionally is like, hey, I'm going to spoil this for you, I would be upset. If I incidentally overhear something, it's on me. So, yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt too. It's like, and the thing is, I wasn't even talking about like major spoilers either.
Yeah, you were talking about, that was like the introduction of a plot line. Like, like the Iron Fleet arriving, Sam getting to the Maesters is like opening the door with nothing else going on.
That's the end of book 4, and I'm like reading it just like, how the hell are we going to wrap this up? Because folks, we have been introducing new characters in every book, and I don't know if you read any of the sample chapters that Martin posts.
No, I have not for the new books. No. I read the sample.
I used to be like all over those, and now I'm just like, I can't. I just can't bring myself to do it.
No, I'll just wait for the unedited full experience. So, but dude, hopefully he'll finish it soon.
Do you think that the book's going to come out in like the next 2 years? Winds of Winter?
I cannot guess anymore. Like my head wants to say yes, but like how many years has it been since the last book? 5, 6, 8,
more than that,
10?
Dude. Yeah, I think it came out in 2012.
Oh my god. Yeah. So like,
I know.
Like you can't. No, I don't think it'll come out this year. I mean, based on that, which also is like, what's he been doing for the past 2 years though? Because travel, he can't do like his travel book tours that he like does all the time. He can't. There's like no other products to work on.
Yes, dog.
Like,
yes.
So come on, dude, finish the book.
I did a bunch of stuff I wasn't actively working on during lockdown. What's going on, my dude? Yeah. But whatever. You know what? You can't really. I guess you can't rush it. But I'm also just.
You know what? Actually, during lockdown, Laura has written a novel.
Really?
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah, she has not let me read it, which, fine. She wanted to keep it to herself. But she has 16,000 some odd words written down. She says she's finished the first draft. So that's huge.
16,000 words?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Damn, I thought you said 1,600.
Which is like, nah, it's not that much. No.
Say
16. I don't think that's a novel. That's like a children's book.
I'm pretty sure that's a novella.
I wrote a children's book.
Hell yeah, you did.
Yeah. I'm trying to work with someone I know to get it illustrated and get it published. It's based on it's really fun. It's based my dad plays a little game with the kids saying every story has a bear. And they're like, no, it doesn't. And every time he sees a bear in a book, he's like, see, there's a bear. So what I did was I just took that and I put a bear in every story.
I love that.
So like there was a bear in Little Red Riding Hood, and the bear was the one who went to get the woodsman to save Little Red Riding Hood because she would give the bear honey cakes. There's a bear in Three Little Pigs who was like the neighborhood security guard, and he fell asleep, which is why the wolf was able to blow the houses down. Like things like that, like a bear in fairy tale stories that you wouldn't think about. So that's my little COVID project. Took me 2 years.
Well, there you go.
Anyways, yeah. Where were we before these tangents? Holy smokes.
I don't know. We just went on this whole Game of Thrones tangent. How long have we even been talking? I think I blacked out for a while. Now I like fell into a whole like rabbit hole thinking about like Patrick Rothfuss and I found this. I looked him up on Wikipedia and I found this article that somebody posted in Newsweek where this is the headline. Kingkiller Chronicle editor believes author hasn't written anything for years. This was published in 2020. Apparently the editor...
That's his editor.
Apparently the editor went on like a tirade on social media just being like, I've fucking had it. I've lost my mind. I can't do it.
That's
and he hasn't
editor.
sent me anything. And it's like...
I would believe the editor.
I would too, because the thing is, when you think about George R. R. Martin, his publisher is very much like, he has his process and he sends us stuff and we read it and then, we talk about it. But I know at this point you cannot rush him.
Right.
Because he has, I don't think.
He has a million side projects going on too. Like he edits other groups of short stories, wild cards, and other things.
First wild cards, it was fun.
Yeah, he does book reviews. He's got a couple of TV shows in production. So
hey, what do you think of House of the Dragon? I think that looks pretty good.
Oh, I haven't seen the trailers for that. Is that the new Game of Thrones?
Just a teaser.
I haven't seen it.
Here's what I like about it is that it takes. There's no like. Well, I mean, there might be like some. I haven't read The Hedge Knight or any of the like Duncan Egg tales.
Yeah.
But I like the premise because it's just like, hey, we're gonna like see what the Targaryens are up to 200 years ago.
It's the Targaryen invasion, right? Pretty much.
No, I think they're like
it's gonna be a different
kings.
thing.
Yeah, they're like they're ruling King's Landing, and they have like a dragon. And they're like, it might be like the begin of the decline of the Targaryen
that could be
dynasty.
Interesting. That could be interesting.
Well, the Mad King Aerys, he was like the end of it because he like went crazy. But I think it's gonna be kind of like
thanks to inbreeding.
Hell yeah. Oh dang, my Amazon package was delivered.
Oh,
look at that.
How about that?
I pre-ordered Elden Ring.
Oh, cool.
That might be getting delivered tomorrow. Actually, that'd be pretty wild. Cool.
Yeah. Anyways,
how long have we been talking? I asked that before we both forgot.
Yeah, we're getting up to 50 minutes. Which is right about our time.
Patreon episode. If you want to listen to the rest of our conversation, DM us and ask for our Venmo.
Going back to the purpose of this podcast, the other most interesting items I thought for the alternate rules are some additional combat rules that would like let you overrun an enemy. So you know how you can't move through an enemy's space? There's an overrun, shove aside, and tumble mechanic that would let you go through the enemy's space. but that has different strength or dexterity checks. I think that's pretty cool because I think it's kind of silly that you could like run, particularly if you're like a Goliath barbarian, run like right at a guy, and then like you have to stop like in front of him. That seems silly. So this is a way you can run through him, push him aside, or for like a smaller character, use a athletics or acrobatics check to roll underneath, sort of through their legs, around them, tumble out of the way. So I think that would be pretty cool. There's a rule for cleaving through creatures, so that if you have like two low-level creatures next to each other and you do like a massive hit with a great axe, you could actually kill the first one and the attack would carry through to the second one. I think that is pretty cool.
That's dope.
There's rules for injuries that like linger or cause disability while you're fighting. Those seem kind of cool. They also seem like they'd be kind of annoying, but something we can consider. There's one for massive damage, which is kind of neat, where if a creature takes damage in a single hit that is equal or greater to half of its hit point maximum, it has to make a Constitution saving throw or suffer system shock, where if they roll on a D10, if they roll a 1, they drop to 0. 2 to 3, they drop to 0, but they're stable. 4 to 5, the creature is stunned until the end of its next turn. 6 to 7, the creature cannot take reaction and has disadvantage on attacks and ability checks until the end of turn. And then 8 to 10, the creature cannot take reactions until the end of its next turn. So those are kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
And then there's one for morale. So it, like I'd say the point of this episode is if you want to learn something, go to your local library and because it has what you want to learn about, and it's free. Like,
it's free.
How great is it that you can just go pick out any book you think of and you can have it for free? And the author still gets paid because the library had to purchase a copy, and most of the books, or they're donated from people who have read them. But like, God bless libraries.
Yeah, absolutely. God bless them. We're so happy for them. Great job. We hope you stay open forever, and I hope that they are always a thing that doesn't have some dumb subscription-based service.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, this has been Dungeon Master Level 1. Thank you all for...
No, that's it. Here we go. Great week. We didn't play, but it was fun just to talk about fantasy novels for
for 20 minutes.
Time.
And we talked a fair amount about dungeon mastering. This was something I learned as a dungeon master this week, which really is the point of the podcast. So thank you all for listening. This has been Dungeon Master Level 1. I'm your Dungeon Master Merritt. With me, as always...
I'm sorry. There's one more thing we didn't do this week. I know I've interrupted your outro twice. How many unique listeners are we at? This is a question
I think we're down this week. Unfortunately, last week's audio, doing it on the web, did not work because I couldn't control individual volumes, and so Steve was too quiet and you were too loud.
Tell me something I don't know.
7. So we're down a little bit. That's all right.
Okay.
It'll go up and down. This was a great week. I think this week is going to go viral.
2 idiots complain about fantasy novels. We will fight them in quotes. And I would too.
This one's going to go on. They're going to make TikToks out of this one.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, perfect. Can't wait.
All right. Don't interrupt me this time. This has been Dungeon Master Level 1. I'm your Dungeon Master Merritt. With me is my unwilling assistant DM, Ted. Thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a great week, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
I'm saying something too. Goodbye. Hello, I'm Ted. Thanks for watching. Follow Merritt at The Irish Roger on Twitter and DM him nudes. Goodbye.
Bye.